Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee, and for the next hour, we're going to talk more about senior care and about the caregivers and what to expect as people you love tend to get a little bit older. But as usual, before we get involved in the topic of the evening, I would like to thank the crew for this evening. We have Chris Flaherty and Tad Stefanak, who are staff members here at BCAT, making sure that everything runs smoothly. We have Colleen Moore, Director Extraordinaire, who is willing to give up her Wednesday evenings to come help me out. And we have a few video voyagers here helping us out. We have Liz Gillespie, Jolie Atwood, and Stephanie Floridas, who also faithfully give up their Wednesday evenings to come. And we also have a very special celebration this evening. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Jolie's mom. Happy birthday, Mrs. Atwood. I hope you have a wonderful day. And definitely last but not least, I would like to thank my husband Paul for staying home for Daddy Date Night. Hopefully the kids are settled all snug in their beds and giving you a quiet evening. And a few more housekeeping. If you have a question for our wonderful guest this evening, whom you will meet momentarily, you can always give us a call at 781-270-9199, or you can always email me at talk@bcattv.org if you have a question later on when we're not live, or if you have a suggestion for a future topic, please feel free to send me some contact information. Okay. I think we have all the housekeeping taken care of, and now I would like to introduce my wonderful guest for this evening. We have Marge McDonald, who is the director of Burlington's Council on Aging.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And you are no stranger to BCAT.
No, I'm not.
I look forward to your clip on B News.
Thank you. I enjoy doing it.
Always informative. And this evening, there's a couple of recognitions that I would like to explain why I invited you to come on this particular episode. We have Family Caregivers Month is the month of November, and it's also Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. So throughout the course of tonight's conversation, I'd like to find out a little bit of more about both of those, and hopefully members of my audience will also like to enjoy learning more about those topics.
Absolutely.
But before we get involved, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you came to the Burlington area, if you did not grow up in Burlington, and how you got involved in the Council on Aging.
So I actually spent my childhood living overseas. Wow. In Africa.
Really?
Yep. A block from the beach.
Sweet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where in Africa? Africa's a pretty big place.
Yeah. I spent 2 years in Ghana and 2 years in Tanzania.
Oh, so like opposite
very
coasts.
Opposite, very opposite, yep. And when I was 9 years old, I should say I was born in Belmont, but when I was 9, we moved back here, and we moved to Lexington. And I literally lived 3/4 of a mile from the Burlington line.
Wow.
My first job was at Burger King, right in Burlington. So
I know exactly where the Burger King is.
Yep.
Home of the Whopper.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you become involved in the Council on Aging?
So I had several jobs working in the corporate world.
Okay.
And had several layoffs.
So you weren't a career Burger King?
No.
Burger flipper?
No, not at all.
No liberal arts education?
No,
sorry.
No.
You want fries with that?
Well, I started off with sociology and was in the wrong school for it, so I ended up just kind of stopping.
Okay.
And shall we say dropping out. And did some corporate work, administrative, and got laid off a couple of times. And this isn't for me. I don't like I take everything personally. I don't want to be laid off. I feel like it was about me, not the economics of the situation.
Right. Well, it's hard not to take stuff like that personally.
Yeah. But when the family you're working for moves to Hawaii and you take it personally, it's like... So... and
they don't want to take you with them.
They don't want to take me with them. No. So they... So I had a couple layoffs. And it was just, I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I had my daughter. I stayed home with her for several months, about 18 months.
Okay.
which was awesome. And then I went back to school part-time.
Okay.
And I went, I did liberal arts,
Okay.
Middlesex Community College.
Okay. I was also went to a liberal arts school. I was just joking about the, you want fries with that.
I had liberal arts and sciences. I just totally fell in love with science. It was as in my 20s.
Okay. See,
And
I took my microbiology for non-science majors, and that was a huge mistake.
I did paleontology and geography and also, life
See, now
science.
that sounds
the
cool.
fun stuff, not,
Okay. Microbiology for fun.
paleontology and just, a lot of like really fun things.
Yeah.
So I then went to Leslie College. It was Leslie College at the time.
Okay.
And did human services. It's
Okay.
kind of like, what do I want to do? And I said, you know what? The elderly population is growing. There's always going to be a job. And
I was about to say job security.
job security. Not really realizing the vagaries of the budgets, but anyway, what are you going to do? So I just happened.
It's not one of those jobs that you can outsource overseas, so,
No,
you know.
no, it's not. So I just
helps.
happened. So we'd have to do internships with Leslie.
Okay.
If it had not been for me, I would have been weeded out really quickly. And it just happens that I did really, I really enjoyed it. I found my passion.
Excellent.
I interned at the North Cambridge Senior Center
Okay.
and then the Cambridge Council on Aging, working on getting their transportation system up and running for the Council on Aging.
Okay, cool.
Very awesome. And then did Cambridge Somerville just services afterwards doing case management.
Okay.
But I just fell in love with the Council on Aging Senior Center. I loved the idea of 1 minute working with somebody one-on-one. I did a quilting group, and one of the ladies had Alzheimer's, and I just adored her, and worked really closely with her. And I had to do, for class, I had to do stories. I had to interview a couple of people and talk about their lives. So I just totally fell in love with them, and I fell in love with the job. And I love the idea of, again, 1 minute you're working really closely with somebody.
You see the result. It's like direct results.
But then the next minute, you could be doing something that affects thousands of people.
Wow.
To their benefit,
Okay.
which like through the transportation program.
Right. Oh, neat.
So I love that, and I love the
variety.
The variety. There's never a dull moment. And I walk in and I say, in the morning, and I say, I'm going to get caught up in my paperwork, or I'm going to clean out this file. And no. 4 o'clock rolls around and it's time to go home, and I'm like, what's that pile of paper? Oh yeah, that was the file I started to clean out. Yeah. But no, I just fell in love with that. And I went to work after college, and of course, it's not a job you go to after college. You have to get some experience.
Yeah.
Did 5 years doing information referral for the local 2 home care agencies.
Okay.
Or ASAPs, which is Aging Access Service Points.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it right, but anyway. Did Minuteman Senior Services, and then Elder Services in Merrimack Valley.
Okay.
And I was getting really burnt out. And my Girl Scout co-leader sends me a little ad and says, "Isn't this what you want to do?" And lo and behold, there's the ad for the Burlington Council on Aging.
Wow.
And I said, I'm not ready, because I was getting my master's at the time.
Oh, okay.
But I'll just interview just for, for
Put
fun.
a few feelers out there.
Yeah, just for the
what it's
experience
about.
of interviewing for the job and see what it's like. And lo and behold, I got the job.
Wow.
So, and
How far along were you in your master's?
Halfway.
Okay.
And it took me a lot longer after that to get it done.
Well,
'cause, then I had the
always
job of
does.
my dreams, and it didn't matter anymore. But I did finish it. But I've been there for 15 years, and
Great.
I still love it. And I do not get out of bed in the morning and say, "Oh, I don't want to go to work." Sometimes I get out, I'm like, "Oh, I really want to stay home today." But I don't actually ever get out and say I don't want to go to work, which is wonderful.
Yay. That's always a bonus.
Yeah.
And never a dull moment. You get to, like you said, impact many lives, whether it's a one-on-one face or whether it's, new programs. So speaking of programs, what kind of programs, for people who are not familiar with Burlington's Council on Aging, what kind of programs are available, and how would somebody find out about them? In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. So we have social services for folks who need help, any kind of help.
Okay.
We have 3 outreach workers, equivalent of 2 full-time workers. So any kind of help you need, whether you need help with heating, or you're having trouble with your your husband or your children, or you just
Your
need to
financial
talk to
management or something?
Yeah,
or-
anything. We
okay.
have the outreach workers, and they can kind of guide you where you need to go.
Okay.
And then we have activities. They range from exercise classes to a group we call the Knitwits, which do they crochet
Knitting?
in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes people will call them Stitch and Bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that
Yeah,
one.
they're pretty, and we have current events, and we have Tai Chi, and
wow.
you know, we have all sorts of.
Now, do you do like field trips and stuff? Like,
We don't have field trips.
Okay.
But we have a volunteer who works for us that does the trips for us. So on the back page of our newsletter, you'll find that.
Oh,
Which
neat.
brings us to how do you find out about them? We have a
you
website,
read my mind.
Burlington.org.
Okay.
You go to the main page and you
Yep.
click under government departments and under C, Council on Aging.
Okay.
And then that will actually lead you to the link to our newsletter.
Okay.
Or it also says what our transportation is. We
Now,
have
is the
transportation.
newsletter only electronic, or could somebody subscribe to
mailed.
it and get? Oh, okay. Ooh, okay.
We can mail it out, we can email it to you, or you can go online to find it.
Okay. But sometimes just having that piece of paper is,
I'm a
stick
reader.
stick it to your refrigerator and.
Yeah, and most do. I think a lot of people get the newsletter emailed, but they also get it mailed.
Okay. Or they email it and print it out.
No, they have us mailed. So
Okay. Because it's double-sided, saves the environment, saves trees.
Yep. And we have transportation, so we will
Okay.
bring people to the senior center. We'll take them grocery shopping.
Now, is there like a route that
Nope.
the bus goes
Nope.
on, or okay,
We take them to medical appointments. Medical appointments always take priority over everything else.
okay,
So if you have a ride to the senior center and all of a sudden we call you and say, we're not going to be able to pick you up today, it's because medical's bumped ya.
Okay.
But we have 2 vans. So one primarily
Okay.
does.
So, like, someone would
Medicals
call
and-
a day in advance, or
We recommend as soon as you know your
okay.
schedule.
Okay.
Our medical slots are every half hour.
Oh,
So
okay.
they fill up very quickly.
Understood. Because I'm thinking, like, grocery shopping. Sometimes it's just like, oh, there's a storm coming. I'm out of bread and milk. Gotta go.
No, you got to
So-
think ahead. It's Tuesday mornings and Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon.
Oh, so it's kind of somewhat structured.
That's structured. Yeah.
Okay. See, I have not needed your services as of yet, so that's.
You're a little far away from that.
I'm getting closer. I am getting closer.
You have a ways to go.
Yeah, but AARP is still sending me fan mail. So okay, as I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Oh wait,
I was
did you
going to say, yeah, I just want to add.
Keep going.
We have an attorney who comes twice a month, Wendy Guthrow.
Okay. And what does?
She
talk
will
about?
do consultations with people,
Okay.
like half hour, 45 minutes.
Like creating an estate plan, or
Yeah, getting all your
okay.
papers and your estate in order so that when you pass away,
okay.
your children aren't left.
You don't
cleaning
really
up the
want to
mess.
think about this, but you kind of do need to think
have to
about it,
think
and your
about it.
children will thank you for this.
Yes. Yeah, and also get rid of all your junk and your stuff
Yeah.
and your love, the things that you love because your children don't.
Or at least if you keep it, label it and tell us why you want it,
Yeah.
because if it was your great grandmother's something versus a yard sale find, your
Yeah.
kids are going to want to know this stuff.
We have somebody who comes in and does hearing tests with your hearing aid,
Okay.
and he'll clean them out. We have a pediatrist. We have daily lunches. We have insurance counseling, the SHINE
Okay.
program, which I think most people over 60 have heard about.
Oh,
I know everyone over 65 has heard about it. We're in open enrollment right now, and we have
So call now.
3 days a week of SHINE. And then we have some case management and, of course, resource referral.
Okay. Now, are a lot of these services free or discounted?
all
or-
free.
They are. So how do you get funding?
Oh, many ways.
Many ways.
Many ways.
Do you want to talk about this? Because I know it wasn't
Yeah.
on my cheat sheet. But
I
I'm
would
just like,
love to talk about it.
okay.
So the majority of the funding comes from the town, from
Okay.
the town budget.
So you are a town department.
I'm a town department.
Okay. Hence, that's why you're on the town website. Okay.
Yes. Town, it's not like this in every town, but the town runs the Council on Aging and the Senior Center. Sometimes the Senior
So
Center
they're
is
not synonymous.
not always.
Okay.
Sometimes the seniors themselves run the Senior Center.
Okay.
And sometimes they run amok and it doesn't work so well. But that's not how it happens. And I think at one time the seniors did actually run the Senior Center,
Okay.
but before my time, and things went awry, and then I came in and
Things
I
weren't
couldn't
as
fix it.
efficient as they could possibly be.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure what it was, and no one else is really sure either, who's alive today anyway.
But it doesn't matter because we have
matter.
you now.
Yeah. So anyway, it is one piece. It all falls under the umbrella of the town.
Okay.
So we are funded. We're municipally funded. We get some money from the state.
Okay.
Pretty good chunk. It's called it used to be called the formula grant.
Okay.
Actually, we still call it the formula grant.
So it's a grant, so you have to apply for it, or
we have to apply for it every year. It's really local aid, but we have to apply for it.
Okay.
And it's based on the formula of how many seniors are on the census.
Okay.
And not the local census, it's the federal census.
Ooh.
Which is causing us all sorts of problems in this period of 2010 to 2020.
Okay.
Because we're growing phenomenal rate.
That's true. Yes.
We have
I've had a couple of shows that have talked about
yeah,
the tremendous growth in Burlington.
25% since 2010 in the senior population in Massachusetts.
Wow.
So we've been trying to increase
And
the
you
number.
can't do anything about it until 2020
Sort of.
with that grant. Oh, okay.
Sort of. So
wait,
what
there's
we
more.
do, the Mass Council on Aging, the
Okay.
association, has been advocating to raise the amount of money we get for the formula grant by the amount of money per elder.
Okay.
So
Now, is this statewide or is this specific to Burlington?
statewide.
Okay.
Statewide.
Because
So-
Burlington's population has been growing exponentially
Yeah,
in the
and
past
probably
few years.
a little bit more than most,
Okay.
or a lot more than most. Yeah, we're not the Cape, but we're creeping. So we're getting $10 an elder.
Okay.
When I came on board, it was probably like, I don't remember.
A lot less.
We were getting $14,000 a year. This year, it's going to be almost $56,000
Wow.
in 15 years.
That's an improvement.
So that's how much we've
Okay.
increased the number of elders in
So it's not
town.
necessarily the number of elders you service, but the number of elders who
lived
are
in the town in
residents.
2010
okay.
or filled out the census.
filled out the census.
So please fill out the census when you get it. That also reminds me, I'm going to go off on a tangent for a
That's okay.
For a second. The
I love
American
tangents.
Community Survey, people have been
Okay.
receiving them in the mail.
Okay.
They're scary looking. They ask a
Okay.
lot of questions.
Okay.
They're really important. They give us, they give the officials, the
Okay.
town officials, and the state officials a snapshot of what residents in Burlington or any town are like. You know, what their
Okay.
income is, what their health is like. Are there any
Okay.
disparities? Race, you know,
Okay.
they ask a lot of questions that seem very invasive, but it gives us a really good snapshot of what the
Okay.
population looks like. So if you get it, I would appreciate, and I'm sure the town
Yeah.
folks, you know, would appreciate if you actually did fill it out, because
what's it
it is
used for?
legitimate. It's a census,
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
between the actual
Okay.
censuses. But again, it just gives us a snapshot of what the population really looks like.
Okay.
It's actually a very good tool for us.
Hmm.
You know, it's nice to know if all of our seniors in town
Well, yeah.
make less than a certain amount of money, it actually opens us up for other grants.
There you go.
So it's good to know that. You know, that's
and
important.
additional services to help.
Yeah.
And probably also tells you which services you
Are
might
needed.
need.
Mhm.
Okay.
So going back to the other
Okay.
piece of it, I also get the money from the state, money from the town. I also get a hefty amount of money from Leahy.
Oh, okay.
It pays for most of our exercise classes,
Okay.
yoga, tai
Now,
chi.
do they also provide the
senior stretch.
instructor?
In one of the
instructors?
classes in the
Okay.
morning, Monday and Wednesday morning, they actually provide the instructor.
Excellent.
Everything else they pay for.
Wow.
They also pay for a farmer's market that we did from June to October.
Ooh.
So I mean, and
Okay. But that's not the senior. That's not
it's
Council
not
on Aging.
it's at the Council on Aging.
Oh.
We give out free produce to the seniors,
Oh.
paid for
okay.
by Leahy.
I
It's
didn't know
basically a
that.
CSA,
Okay. Cool.
and they come in and they get a share of like 5 items.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like sponsoring the farmer's market
Yeah,
that
no,
was
no,
on the
no.
t-
This is
Oh, okay, I
completely
kind
separate
of
from that farmer's market.
misunderstood.
Yeah, it's confusing because we call it
Okay.
a farmer's market, but
Got it.
and then I get money from the cultural grant,
Okay.
cultural council, and then other little pieces here and
Here
there,
and
and
there.
donations. We are very reliant on donations, the kindness of strangers to give us cash for things.
Well, that works.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? I don't want to cut you off,
Nope.
but I
think
know we
that's
have a bunch of questions. So, as I mentioned earlier, November is Family Caregivers Month. And the first thing that came to mind when I read this is taking care of an elderly parent or an elderly spouse. That might not be what it means, but this is what
No,
I
that's
thought
what
of.
it means. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some ways that this might be like twofold? What are some ways that the Council on Aging would help an adult child care for an elderly parent? And then we'll ask about spouse relationships.
So a large piece of that is if they're fairly independent still,
Okay.
just keeping an eye on them at the center and reporting if we see any issues.
Okay.
The Council on Age, the senior center is for folks who are independent though.
Okay.
So what we do is we support the family.
Okay.
We get them resources. We'll take the loved one to go tour assisted livings for them if they need that.
Okay.
We'll go with the elder to go to the doctor's
Okay.
appointments and advocate that way if they need help with that. But a lot of what we do is just to advocate and find resources to help them navigate the resources that are out
Okay.
there, which are confusing.
Okay. Because I'm also thinking, back when I was like in elementary school, my mom was taking care of her mother. And it's like, okay, visiting nurses and, if they need an in-house physical therapist or the Meals on Wheels program that, what are, kind of like bridging from the independent living to not quite needing assisted living, but
yeah,
there's
and
a
we'll help with
huge-
that.
Okay.
We obviously will help kind of navigate it, help set
Okay.
things up if they need it. The love of the visiting nurses, of course, is that
Okay.
then you get the physical therapy in there, you get the occupational therapy, you get the
But
home health
we are
aid,
going back 30
Yeah.
something years.
and
so.
some things haven't changed in 30-something years. So,
Okay.
except that now we have the councils on aging, which weren't there before. But we'll help to navigate it or set things up, especially if somebody's coming home, making
Okay.
sure that all the services are going in,
Okay.
because sometimes things get missed.
Well, I'm also thinking, sometimes if I'm new to this, I might not know what resources are available, had it not been for taking care of someone in our house. What is visiting nurses? What is Meals on Wheels? What are these where do I start?
Right.
So it's nice to have a contact. Let's go see Marge
Yeah.
and find out what do I do.
If someone's in the hospital, social workers, case managers are supposed to be setting up services for them,
Okay.
but it doesn't always happen.
Okay. But sometimes it helps to know what questions to ask that
Yep.
service provider. Okay. So you would be able to help with whatever resource. I'm looking at my questions. So you'd be able to point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is, bridging on any confidentiality issues, but would you be able to advise someone saying, it's probably not the safest thing to keep this person in their home independently. Maybe you should look at a senior community or, because what are there between, backing up a little bit, what's the difference between an assisted living facility and like a nursing home?
So assisted living is more independent.
Okay.
There's not a nurse on staff 24/7.
Okay.
Usually during the night, there's not.
Okay.
You can come and go as you please. You don't have to kind of sign yourself out.
Okay.
You just need help getting, you might need a little bit of help getting dressed,
Okay.
maybe a little bit of help getting showered, and you get your 3 meals a day.
Right.
It's private pay,
Okay.
very fancy schmancy for the most part.
I want to say there's some new assisted living facilities in Burlington, but they're probably been here for 10 years now.
We have 3 in Burlington,
Okay.
and then there's a couple on the perimeter of Burlington as
Okay.
well. So they're much nicer, but the care is, you get less care
Okay.
than you would in a nursing home.
Now, are some of them like you can move in when you just need assisted living, but if you needed more care, they do also have like the wing that is the nursing home?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's one in Tewksbury that specifically is that assisted living to nursing home.
Okay.
And then they have what you call continuing care retirement communities.
Oh, okay. What are those?
That is, you start out independent, you go to
Okay.
assisted living, and then to nursing.
Okay. So it's like a senior community, like the over 55 or over 65 community.
Sort of.
Sort of.
You go in knowing you're probably going to need a little bit more care.
Okay.
So Brooksby Village is really that senior community up in Peabody
Okay.
that everybody's healthy and happy and,
Okay.
Brookhaven in Lexington and Carlton Willard in
Okay.
Bedford are more the continuing care retirement communities. You kind of move in, you're a little more frail.
Oh.
You're not as
okay.
able to partake in a gazillion
Okay.
activities. The activities might be a little quieter because you're a little more frail.
Okay. Now, when a parent goes into one of these facilities, regardless of what level, or maybe even like the nursing home care or the assisted living, are there resources available for the adult child? Because sometimes, parents can put kids on guilt trips, even if the adult, the child is, 50 years old themselves.
Yeah.
But, why are you putting me into a home? Or, just making sure that the care that the parent is receiving is quality care and just sometimes support. And especially if it's a spouse relationship too. If you've been living with someone for 50 years, it's got to be hard to.
There's support
separate.
groups
Okay.
that most of them are for folks who are taking care of somebody with dementia of some sort.
Okay.
But there are support groups that people can join and talk to each other. And,
Okay.
I think a lot of the support.
Now, would you be able to point them in the right direction of where to find some of these support
Oh, yeah,
groups?
absolutely. And I think almost every facility has one. Almost every council on aging has one.
Okay.
The adult day health programs usually have them as well. So you're going to butt into one way or the other anyway. It's really a matter of the time of day, the time of the week, what works for you, as to which one you want to go to.
Okay. So, like making that decision to transition, what are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself? Should I do this? Or should I try keeping this parent at home?
Safety.
Okay.
Safety is a big question. Can they push their lifeline? Do they know to push the lifeline if something goes wrong? Can they pick up the phone and dial 911? If somebody calls them, do they know what to do if they pick up the phone?
Okay.
Think about it, but a lot, a child just coming over to check on their parent twice a week, 3 times a week, may not be talking to them on the phone at all, and may not realize they can't even pick up the phone. How safe is the house?
Okay.
Are they subject to wander?
Okay.
Are they able to cook?
Not necessarily a safety issue, but a lot of houses, at least in Burlington, are multi-level or have a flight of stairs. Is the bedroom upstairs and the kitchen downstairs? Is there access to a bathroom?
We have a lot of splits.
Yes.
Can they get out of the house?
Okay.
My mother-in-law can't get out of the house unless somebody helps her.
Oh, stairs?
She had a stroke. Yeah, she lives in a split, not in Burlington, but she lives in a split, and she can't get up and down those stairs without help now.
Oh, okay.
So, it's something to think about. Can they get out of that house if there's a fire? But yeah, can they do their daily living activities?
Okay.
Can they bathe themselves? Can they cook a meal without burning down the house? Without burning down the meal? How cluttered is the house? Are they leaving things all over the place.
Yeah.
And
Are they becoming
are
hoarders?
they, if they're shuffling a lot, they may have a trip hazard.
Oh, okay.
In which case you need to pick up all the rugs if you're not taking them out of the house, because that becomes a trip hazard of itself.
True. Okay, and probably the age of the house and what kind of work needs to be done on the house too.
And of course, most seniors in Burlington are living in homes that were built in the 60s and 50s.
Right.
And they're starting to need some repair.
New roof, new furniture.
Well, and that's and that's another thing. Can they afford all the repairs that need to be done on a house that now needs a lot of repair?
Okay. Wow. There's a lot of questions that you kind of need to, go through the little checklist.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we've answered this, but the best option for what level of care housing? Is there like a checklist to go through with that? Or is it based on financial ability? Is there financial aid available for some of this? Because,
so for assisted living, there's not a lot of help.
Okay.
In Burlington, there's several apartments at each assisted living where you get special price for being a Burlington resident.
Okay.
There's a group adult foster care, and which you have to have an income of, I can tell you, somewhere in my notes.
Okay.
I think it's like $11.50. You have to have less than.
Okay.
$11.50 a month.
So is that for the what was that option?
Group adult foster
Group
care.
adult foster care.
So you share an apartment, basically, with your own bedroom. Assets less than $2,000, and I think they said it was about $11.50 a month.
Okay.
And then there's aid and attendance if you're a veteran.
Oh.
It's not a lot of money, but it helps.
Okay.
When you consider the cost of assisted living.
True.
So that's for
I heard some assisted living places are worse than my mortgage.
Yeah, you can go upwards of $8,000 a month.
8,000?
If you need a lot of care.
I was thinking it was like 3,000 to 5,000, but wow.
About 5,000 around here, generally, if you don't need a lot of help.
Wow.
And a nursing home these days is about $12,000 a month. But once you've spent down your assets, Mass Health will kick in and pay for it, so you won't get booted out.
Because people are living a lot longer, and you could go through a lot of money real fast at those prices.
They will not. The state will not take your home away out from under your spouse, or a disabled child. But you need to. This is really where you need to kind of see a lawyer. Is you want to make sure you're protecting your home. If you can.
And doing that, just a side note, is probably earlier to do that before you need it.
There's a 5-year look back.
Wow. Okay.
So if you give all of your stuff, all of your belongings away, and 4.5 years later you're in a nursing home, the state's going to look to your family to take that money. So,
wow.
Yeah. So you really
plan
need
ahead.
You need to plan quite a bit ahead.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay.
On
We
that
already
happy
talked
note.
about financial feasibility. I'm just looking through my notes, making sure that, I do go on tangents, and sometimes we overlap a little bit. So, not that it ever happens in Burlington. I do not know, but I remember in my experience a long time ago, I've heard about, and sometimes you hear on the news that there are some, not necessarily assisted living facilities, but there are places of residence that are not quite up to par. What happens if you find out that your loved one is in that situation?
You want to go tour and find another one.
Okay.
And the new one will help you take that person and transfer them. It should be a pretty simple process. Tour a few places, go to local council on aging, ask for some referrals of good places, and it can change pretty quickly. What you think is a really good place, this happened to us. We were referring to a certain place, and then somebody came back and gave us some negative feedback. So we said, well, thank you for letting us know, because
I mean, sometimes it could be that particular resident saying, they wouldn't give me my cigarettes. Get me out of here.
We don't,
but then there are some times when it's like the care itself is
Yeah, I mean, the feedback we had gotten was actually quite good feedback, and it wasn't a very close place, but it was a place we'd been referring.
Okay. So what's the time frame? You know, we talked about waiting lists, and what's the time frame that it normally takes to get into a place to begin with? And then if there's a problem, I mean, sometimes potentially it could be life-threatening. How long does it take to transfer?
I would say if somebody's in a life-threatening situation in a nursing home,
Which hopefully never happens.
you would
but-
want them to get to the hospital
Okay.
and then transfer them from there.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be more than 24 to 48 hours to transfer
Okay.
somebody.
Okay, to transfer. What about like waiting lists to get into certain places? Are there waiting lists?
Not for the nursing homes.
Okay.
For assisted living, there can be,
Okay.
but I don't know of any in our area right now.
Okay.
We have a good number of assisted living, so we're in pretty good shape.
So there is room. Should
Now,
we need it.
housing is a whole nother situation.
Shall we talk about housing?
Sure. So state
Okay.
housing,
Okay.
there's a 2 to 3 year wait.
Wow. Now, what constitutes state housing?
Everybody knows it as the towers or the cottages over on Birchcrest,
Okay.
the housing authority.
Okay.
So it's like a 1 year wait for a resident, and then 2 to
Okay.
3 year wait for a non-resident to get in.
Okay.
That's on a sliding scale fee. 30% of your income is what you pay for
Okay.
your income for your
Oh,
rent, which is
okay.
kind of nice. And then
What about the Grandview place? What is that?
Grandview are condominiums
Okay.
that are. It's a little confusing. I'm trying to get my thoughts in order. So, it's not market rate. It's
Okay.
kind of controlled by the town.
Okay.
It has a condo association, so they are their own entity.
Okay.
But when you go to sell the home,
Okay.
the town sets the price,
Okay.
and the town chooses who buys the condo.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay.
It's by a lottery.
Is there like an? Oh, okay. I was going to ask if there was like an application.
Yeah, no, we're not saying, oh, let my best friend in, or my mom needs to get in. Can you just
Okay.
let her in? No, not like that. There was a lottery
Okay.
based on a formula: how many years you've lived in town, what your income is, and a few other things. And then they just go down the list.
Okay.
There's also over at the Heritage, off of Wall Street, we have
Oh, okay.
McNamara Drive,
Okay.
which is a 55 plus building, affordable, a whole building of affordable apartments for people who are older,
Okay. Now,
which is nice.
let's back up a little bit. When we say older, depending on where you go, I mean, just not necessarily housing, older can, what age are we talking? 65, 70,
For the state of
55?
Massachusetts, it's 60.
60? See, that's my point.
But retirement communities are generally 55 plus.
Okay.
And then, of course, ARP thinks you're
50.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although they were sending me stuff
Great
since my
discounts.
20s, so,
yeah,
you know.
I know. I hear you. 36, I think. So we have McNamara Drive, which is affordable. It's about $1,200.
Okay.
It's affordable. And then all of the other apartment complexes, except for Lord Byron, I believe,
Okay.
have affordable units.
Okay.
And
So that's like a certain percentage blocked
10%,
off.
yeah. So even the Tremont in
Okay.
over on 3rd Ave, the new one,
Okay.
if you qualify,
Ah.
you can go in there for like $1,200.
Now, this affordable is affordable and senior. It's not just affordable for anybody in town, or is there like a?
Technically, it's for anybody, but it's senior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Most of the apartments that are affordable are like, 1-bedroom apartments that most people, most families aren't going to go into.
True.
And most single men or women are not going to qualify for the affordable
Okay.
anyway, who are working. And
Got it.
it's a tricky little
Yeah, I'm sure.
situation.
It's a fine line.
Yeah. Be careful what you say.
Because then I'd have to kill you. No.
Yeah, no.
Now,
But there's lots of affordable. And, I know that a lot of folks say to me, how is $1,200 affordable? But it's, but that's what they consider affordable. Compared to the market rate apartments of $2,000 and
That's true.
$2,500.
or more.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, Backing up a little bit for more of the assisted living in the nursing home areas, are there like licensings or certifications that have to be done through the government on a regular basis? And, is it for the building itself? Is it for staff? Is it, how often?
The state has certification that
Okay.
has to happen through them,
Okay.
Executive Office of Elder Affairs, but that's it for the assisted livings.
Okay.
All they have to do
Wow. And is it like regularly maintained or?
annually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, the assisted livings are kind of their own entity. They have a lot of freedom.
Okay.
And there's a lot of difference between them. Some will take very, very frail
Okay.
people, and some want them
More independent.
more independent.
Okay. All right. Cool. Anything else on assisted living or care?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Because I'm thinking.
I
we
should add, actually,
Yep.
that we do have a caregiver support group every other Wednesday.
Oh. Okay.
So not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday.
Okay. Also
At
available
6
on your
o'clock.
website.
Mhm. Correct.
Excellent. On your newsletter calendar.
Correct.
Okay. Now November
Mhm.
is also Alzheimer's Awareness Month.
Yes, it is.
And no pun intended, I did not want to forget to talk about this. So, let's talk about Alzheimer's for a little bit. What is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Because a lot of people, myself included, sometimes get some of the signs and symptoms confused.
Yeah. So actually, Alzheimer's is a form of dementia.
Okay.
Dementia is the umbrella.
Okay.
Dementia is the forgetfulness.
Okay.
It's the symptom rather than a disease of itself.
Okay.
Alzheimer's is the disease that causes
Okay.
dementia. Parkinson's also causes dementia. You have frontal lobe dementia,
Okay.
Down syndrome. Folks
Okay.
with Down syndrome can get dementia, which isn't necessarily Alzheimer's.
Okay. So Alzheimer's like a neurological. Okay.
Yeah, your neurons stop
Okay.
passing.
Synapses aren't firing
Yeah,
anymore.
Exactly.
I feel
Your
like that sometimes.
Your hippocampus becomes kind of empty.
Oh.
I guess it's the best. If you look at
Okay.
the hippocampus in a normal person, it's very kind of, there's a lot there.
Okay.
And you look at one in somebody with advanced Alzheimer's, and it's very it's lacier looking. There's a lot of holes
Okay.
in it.
Because those synapses aren't firing.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the symptoms, or the signs rather, to look for in someone you suspect may be coming down with either Alzheimer's or another form of dementia?
Okay. So
I lose my car keys all the time or forget where I park when I go to the mall, but I wouldn't exactly say that I'm a prime candidate for Alzheimer's just yet.
Well, the funny thing is I've gotten very forgetful, and I was thinking I was having early signs of Alzheimer's, and I was told that actually it is menopause, and
Okay.
it does stop. I'm like, okay, if you're sure.
Okay.
So there's actually 10 warning signs, which I'm not going to go through right here.
Okay.
And you can look them up at the Alzheimer's website, which is www.alz.org.
Yes.
And they have a helpline, so you can call them.
Okay.
I think we're going to put the number up somewhere. And I'm going to read this so I don't forget anything, 'cause
Okay.
it's really important.
Yep.
So poor judgment and decision making. So
Okay.
they're making bad decisions.
Okay.
Crossing the street without looking, lighting a fire in the fireplace and walking out the door.
Okay.
Inability to manage a budget if they could before.
If they could before.
If they
Okay.
could before, that's
Thank you for
huge.
clarifying
On the
that.
website, it doesn't say if they could before. I'm thinking, yeah, but I can't manage a budget that well, and I
Yeah,
know
I
my
can't
daughter
balance-
can't.
I
So
can't balance my checkbook.
yeah,
you know?
so that's
Okay.
not really that. But yeah, if they, especially if they were the budget person, and all of a sudden
Okay.
they can't even write a check,
Okay.
bills are going unpaid. You're coming in to the house and you're seeing, shut off notices and stuff like that. Losing track of the date or season, which is an
Okay.
obvious one. I think most people know that. They have difficulty having a conversation.
Okay.
You're talking to them and they start to kind of look off to one side,
Okay.
or they're not answering you appropriately.
Okay.
Misplacing things and being unable to retrace your steps to find them.
Oh, okay.
So you lose your keys, you go back in the house and you go, okay, where was I?
Okay. What coat was I wearing?
Right.
What?
Where did I last see my keys?
Okay.
They can't do that. And then So you get all those jokes.
Or you find the keys in the refrigerator or something. Okay.
So you hear all the jokes about somebody stole my purse or someone stole my keys. And I've seen it actually in the police logs that people have called and said something was stolen because they can't find it and they don't know how to find it.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's another, that's a big
Kind of
symptom.
jumping to conclusions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so those are the things you really want to look for.
Oh, okay.
If you start to see any of those, then
See a doctor.
Yeah. But then you also have the 10 warning signs, which people can look up. And
Okay. So what are some of the risk factors? Is it genetic or is it
increasing age.
socioeconomic or
It's increasing age.
Okay.
Yeah. As people are living longer, their brains are getting older,
Okay.
and it gives us more of a chance to get Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Early onset
Okay.
Alzheimer's, 50s, 60s, even 40s.
Okay.
That is more genetic.
Okay.
It's to my understanding.
Okay.
So it can be genetic.
Yeah,
but it's
I
very,
realize
very
you are not an expert, so I do appreciate you kind of filling me in about
Sure.
this too.
So if your mother and your grandmother both had Alzheimer's, you can pretty much guarantee that
Okay.
it's
First time you
genetic.
lose your keys,
Don't panic.
don't worry. But if you start doing this on a regular basis and, like you said, can't retrace your steps and
Correct.
find them in the refrigerator, because I've heard stories of relatives of friends saying, yeah, we found, she put a banana in the microwave.
Now, mind you, I have to warn everybody when you start to think about this, 2 or 3 of us in my office regularly have to come back into the office 2 minutes after we left because we forgot something in the office.
But you knew enough to come back.
Myself included. Yes.
You knew enough to
But
come
just
back.
because you're forgetting things doesn't mean you have Alzheimer's.
Understood.
And if you're in that 50+ range and you're a woman, it's probably just
Okay.
menopause.
Okay. Now, do you know of any medical treatments for Alzheimer's? Can you treat this medically, or
No,
is it
you cannot treat it medically. There are 5 medications
Okay.
that are FDA approved right now
Okay.
that will help alleviate symptoms, slow down the progression.
Okay.
You cannot actually
Cure it.
cure it.
Okay. But it will slow down the progression. So okay.
Not very much, but it'll give you a little extra time.
Now, do you know by any chance if diet or lifestyle or exercise has anything to do with?
They actually say that it does. They say it does.
Okay.
There have been longevity studies. Okinawa.
Okay.
You've heard those kind of those studies of these people who live to be 100 years old. They don't get Alzheimer's.
Okay.
So however they're eating is also keeping them from getting Alzheimer's.
Because I'm also thinking, just in general, Alzheimer's aside, but over the last generation or two, it seems like allergies are more prevalent, asthma's more prevalent, heart disease, cancer, all these other things are. And a lot of people are wondering, is it the food, is it the processing of all the food? So I'm thinking, if someone is predisposed, going back to organic or going back to basics.
I don't know if that would make a difference.
I don't know.
I think our food generally is not very clean. There's a lot of chemicals in it, so it'd be hard to know. And again, 50 years ago, when the food was in a different place than it is today and not so many chemicals, we didn't live
The life
as long.
expectancy was 72, and now
Not
it's
even,
what is the life expectancy now? Do you have any idea?
I think for women it's 87.
Wow.
Yeah, it's up there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Got a few years to go.
So don't retire early.
Don't retire early. Right now, I just if I retire today, I can live on my retirement until Tuesday.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Okay, let's moving right along. So since we're talking, earlier we were talking about caring for someone, an elderly family member. How does that differ when someone has Alzheimer's versus just physical limitations, having a hard time getting dressed, having a hard time fixing their own meals?
I think for Alzheimer's, every day is different. You don't know what to expect.
Okay.
And they can have bad days and they can have good days, and you don't know what you're going to get. And you can't reason with them.
Okay.
And you have to you have to go into their reality, and you have to be,
Okay.
when you're working with somebody who's just failing, their minds
Okay.
are generally working. You can reason with them. They can
Okay.
help you. They can say such and such hurts.
Okay.
They can say, I can't do this, I can't do that. I
Okay.
want to eat this, I don't like that.
Okay.
When you're caring for somebody with Alzheimer's, they can't do any of that. They may know they feel pain, or they may not know they feel pain, and they
Wow.
can't tell you where it is.
Okay.
So even when we have somebody with Alzheimer's in the center and they start to act funny,
Mm-hmm.
we'll call 911 because we don't know what's going on with them.
Okay.
And you don't want to take chances. You know, if someone just starts to get pale and they have
Yeah.
Alzheimer's and they can't tell you anything,
Yeah.
I mean, you want to get them to the hospital where they can be assessed.
Yeah.
But
Understandable.
a lot of it's
That
the
can be pretty
unknown. They
frightening.
can't be left alone. Somebody always has to be with them. And again, they can't have conversation. So you're
It's like
stuck
having
in
a
a house
2-year-old.
with a 2-year-old, yeah, or an 18-month-old. Not to
Wow.
equate them with that, but
Well, no, but
conversation-wise,
yeah.
that you're
You can't turn your back on them for a second
Mhm.
because
Yeah, and they can be in a bad mood and they don't know why. And
Okay.
if you get angry with them, then they remember that you're angry, but they don't know why you're angry. And they'll ask a gazillion questions over and over and over. So it can get very, very frustrating.
Okay. Now, with either dementia or Alzheimer, or any form of dementia, is there like drifting off into the past where they keep telling stories about,
That would be Alzheimer's, not dementia.
Oh, okay.
I guess there's forms of dementia that you can go back, but Alzheimer's is progressive.
Okay.
So you start to forget things that happened
Okay.
now. And then you just kind of slowly kind of move back. So you might look at your wife and you're 50 years back
Okay.
and you're seeing an old lady next to you. And it's like, there's a stranger in my house.
Oh, wow.
And the cops have gotten those phone calls. There's a stranger in my house. They don't recognize their spouse because they're 50 years older than where they're at.
Okay.
There's
I was
children,
just thinking like trying to rationalize or trying to talk, and they would start talking about, something that happened 50 years ago, and well, why aren't you getting the newspaper? And
right, because that's where they
No.
are. There's been people who wandered off and they've gone to work. I think there was a gentleman who left an assisted living in Burlington and they found him in Arlington. He was trying to get to his job,
Wow.
which was no longer there. It was from when he lived in Arlington.
Wow.
So they
you
go,
not only was the job not there, the company wasn't, the building wasn't there.
right.
Wow.
So they call it the 36-hour day. It really is because
Wow.
you don't know what's going to happen in the next minute.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of wandering off, other than having them under house arrest and equivalent, are there ways of protecting a loved one from wandering off?
Oh, yeah. There's lots of things you can do.
Okay.
Again, call the Alzheimer's helpline,
Okay.
which I didn't write down here on my notes, but
Okay.
they'll put it up on
Yep.
the screen. They can kind of go through things with you. They can send somebody
Okay.
out to help you with that. But there's some basic things you can do.
Okay.
The first thing we request is that you go to the police station, you fill out a memory disorder form,
Okay.
Alzheimer's or any kind of dementia. And I would say even somebody with autism of some sort
Okay.
it would be good for. And you bring a picture and
Okay.
we put it with the form. And then if your loved one is missing, we have a picture that we can put out on all the social media and whatnot.
Everything. Yeah.
And the police are actually very well followed. Thousands of people follow them on Twitter. So that information will get out very, very quickly.
Okay.
What you can do at home, you can put locks on your door.
Okay.
You can put alarms on your door. And if you put locks on your door, I don't mean at your
Yeah.
arm level. You put them up at the very top.
Okay.
Just a little slide thing.
Yeah. Like the
They
little
won't,
chain.
Yeah, they won't see it. They won't know that it's there because it's
okay.
not in their kind of,
Their field of
they may
vision.
figure it out eventually. But you put alarms. But if you're hard of hearing, you may not hear it.
Okay.
The other thing you can do is you paint your doors, your trim, and your walls all the same color. And they can't find it. They can't find the door.
Oh.
That's one of my favorite
Okay.
tricks to do.
I'm like, outside or inside?
Inside.
Yeah.
Inside. Yeah.
Well, because I'm just, I'm also kind of wondering, not that I'm advocating this, but, like if someone's put on house arrest, they have a little bracelet on, that has a radio signal or a GPS or something.
There is a low jack, but we don't have it in this area.
Okay.
A low jack for people.
Okay.
But it's not in this area yet. So I've looked into it, but we don't
Okay.
have it yet.
And there's also like the animal microchips with the code, and you just,
Yeah. We're
they
not
even
quite-
did that on a, James Bond
Yeah.
movie, but
We're not quite there yet.
yeah, and that just brings up so many other issues. So
But there's also all sorts of monitoring you can do via computer now
okay,
to watch a loved one. So you can you have an alarm go off if you're not there, and you would know if they walked out of the house. There's a lot you can do. One of the best things you can do, though, if you have someone who's wandering out of the house a lot and it's getting very difficult to manage it, have them go to Adult Day Health.
Go where?
Adult Day Health.
Okay. What's that?
So that is a daytime program
Okay.
for people who just really don't get out a lot. Aren't
Kind of
safe
like
to be
daycare for
home.
adults?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Not
I don't mean to oversimplify this,
No.
but I'm just, I've heard of some of these programs that are available. And,
it in a simplified way, it is, yeah.
okay.
There's a nurse there as well, but we have a lot of folks that have Alzheimer's or dementia that go to them. Some that people are just lonely, and it's a good place for them. But it keeps them busy.
Okay.
And there's certain therapies that folks with that work for people with
Okay.
Alzheimer's, and it keeps them busy. And then they come home and they're tired, and they're less likely to go wandering off. So it's not a bad thing. I think it's difficult for a caregiver to. It's like homeschooling a child. It's difficult for a caregiver to be able to do some of these therapies, and still get all their chores done. And I think, as a spouse of somebody, I think you should remain the spouse if you can, and not necessarily only be the caregiver.
Right.
And you definitely need time to yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we are out of time.
Okay.
So
It goes so fast.
it does. Well, that's because you're well prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, and
Absolutely.
I did learn a lot, so I'm
Good.
very helpful.
I hope people
And
did.
I hope everyone at home was able to find this evening's conversation as informative as I did. So thank you, Marge.
You're welcome.
And thank you for tuning in. And I hope you have a wonderful week. And I'll see you around town. Good night.